This is an exciting day for us in the Department of Animal Sciences and Industry at Kansas State University. My name is Ken Odie. I'm head of the Department of Animal Sciences and Industry. I joined this department in February of 2007. Stanley Stout passed away in 2006. And this project had began shortly after Stanley died. There were a number of people that thought we ought to try to figure out a way to honor Stanley and honor the memory of Stanley Stout. And a decision was made to pursue funding for a livestock marketing center. And that decision was made and some funds were raised starting back in 2006 and 2007. But we weren't that successful in funding this project for probably another 3 or 4 years. Starting in about 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, Pat Coons called me one day, and Pat said, "What can we do to really help get some energy back under that project?" And Pat and the Livestock and Meat Industry Council really got engaged. We got some strong efforts from Dave Nichols on our staff and Emily Fink from the KSU Foundation, and we got some new energy put into the project for fundraising at that time. And then the other thing that happened is about, not too much over a year ago, Mr. Rich Porter got involved in the project, and Rich brought a lot of funding to the project, but also brought a lot of energy and passion to the project. And Rich started working with us, and not just his funds helped the project, but his ideas, his thinking, his passion, his energy. And Rich has been a full partner in this project, and we owe a great debt of gratitude to Rich, and you're going to be hearing from Rich a little bit later in the program. At this time, if you look at your program, and by the way, just so you know our time frame here, we're going to be done with this dedication and ribbon cutting before 4 o'clock, because at 4 o'clock we start the legacy sale. And we don't want to delay the start of that sale. We want to make sure the sale starts on time, so we're going to move through the program fairly quickly here today. What I'd like to do at this time is I'd like to introduce the Dean and Director, the Dean of Agriculture, Director of Kansas State University Research and Extension, Dr. John Flores. Dr. Flores joined us on August 1st of 2012 as the Dean and Director, and has brought great energy to this position, is leading a strategic planning effort for the organization, and is working hard to take us to the next level. And so please join me in welcoming Dean Flores.
Thank you very much, Ken, and welcome to all of you. This is a great day for K-State agriculture and K-State animal agriculture in particular. I'm here to just say just a few words. This has been a great project to be part of just the last 7-8 months, but it took a lot of people to really work hard and get it to fruition. I didn't have the chance to meet Stanley Stout, so I didn't really know much about who he was and what he did, but I've heard a lot of good things about Stanley, and the one thing that everybody keeps saying is that Stanley Stout could sell anything. So this is to honor him and his legacy and his impact in animal agriculture at Kansas and Kansas State University. The college is in good hands with all the department heads we have. We have great leadership. We have right now the largest undergraduate enrollment we've ever had in our history, and the continuous growth of the last 5 or 6 years. It will continue again next year. That's what our numbers are showing. So more and more students are finding Kansas State University agriculture a place to come and learn about animals and learn about plants and learn about food and fuel and fiber and all the good things that we do. I do want to say that particularly the animal science department is a big part of who we are at the College of Agriculture. Our animal science department is now one of the biggest, is probably the biggest department within K-State, and probably, if I trust Ken's comments, is the largest animal science department in the country. So, So this is going to add a lot to who we are as animal science, as a K-State agriculture, because it's going to help our students do a lot more hands-on and have a lot of experience, just like we've done in the past. We will continue to do that in the future as well. I do want to thank one person in particular that has been instrumental in really helping us make this happen. We have a lot of people that have contributed significant amounts of money. This facility that you see today here, it's all been built with private funding. And there's a lot of people that we need to thank. But without one person in particular, and you will hear from him in just a minute, his name is Rich Porter. Without Rich Porter, we would not have been able to really finish this facility. So let me quote something that Rich said when he gave a short interview in a magazine, because I think it's interesting to hear it. So Rich is commenting by saying, "I thought it would be great to fund a building at K-State when I retired or died. When I heard about the desire to build a multi-use building in honor of Stanley Stout, I decided this was it. Sure, I hadn't retired or died yet, but I thought there would probably never be a better and more cost-effective building than this one." So Rich Porter, thank you very much. Now, I would like to also congratulate Ken and his efforts in really pulling together a lot of alumni and friends and faculty and staff and students, because it took a lot of people to really work together to accomplish this. So Ken, thank you very much. So with that, I would like to again welcome you one more time to K-State, to the College of Agriculture, to this beautiful facility, and I hope you all have fun later today. So thank you.
Thanks, John. I'd like to make a few introductions at this time. One of the things I'd like to do is, we have a number of members of the family of Stanley Stout with us today, and we're just delighted that those folks have decided to join us. So at this time, I'd ask all the members of the Stout family to please stand. I know we got quite a few here. I'd like to have all of you stand. I think we got some in the back. I see some in the back there, but please join me in a round of applause for the Stout family. We also have with us today the mayor of Manhattan, Kansas, Mayor Lauren Peppard. Mayor Peppard, right over here. Thank you for joining us today. And I want to acknowledge, obviously, as Dean Flores said, lots of people did a lot of things that resulted in this project coming to fruition. But there's a few people in my department I really want to acknowledge. And you're going to hear from Dave Nichols a little later, and Dave is certainly one of those. But two other people that you're not going to hear from that are really key to this project would be Dan Moser and Ryan Briner. And Dan Moser is the faculty member in charge of the purebred beef unit. Ryan Briner is the manager of the purebred beef unit. I want to say a special thank you to both of those gentlemen who put so much work into this particular project. We also have two of our representatives with us today. We have Representative Sidney Carlin with us. Representative Carlin, thank you for joining us. And We also have Representative Tom Moxley with us. Tom, thank you also for joining us today. I mentioned in my earlier remarks the work of Pat Coons. Pat is the president of the Livestock and Meat Industry Council. Pat was a close friend of Stanley Stout, always had very strong convictions about this project, and he brought his great leadership skills to this effort, really put a lot of energy and passion behind this project. And this time I'd ask Pat to come to the podium and make a few remarks.
Dr. Odie, between you and Dean Flores, you've taken my speech. Now we have to start all over. How do we start? Ken asked me to make reference to some stories. What was Stanley like? Well, every one of us in here would have a story about Stout. More than one. We introduced ourselves to each other in September of 1959. And for some reason, we connected for 46 years. When we said goodbye to Stanley in May of 2006, there was a pot of money got gathered up. It was about $35,000. And then a group of the road runners, or the ring men, if you will, that traveled and all across the country with him and myself, he said, what would Stanley like to see done with that? There was no designated pots, so we'll put it in. Well, Stanley had made reference not only to Dave Nichols, of course, but to me and the ring men about having a sale in this tent up here by the beef barns. He'd been to more functions at the Strong City Rodeo that had a better tent than what they had here. And it was an accident waiting to happen in case we'd get into a bad storm and all them kind of things. So probably Neil Orth mentioned, well, you know, talking about a sale barn, okay. Well, what them things cost? Well, it's going to be more than $34,000. So there was a period of time in there, a short period of time, some major donors come on board and added to that, and it got pushed up to about $185,000. So at that point in time, the President Weefald, and the Board of Regents signed off on an agreement to build a sale barn at the purebred beef unit to cost $500,000. Wow. So it somewhat lingered in there for a bit. And then a dear lady, Emily Finkel at the foundation, she helped get us energized and moving us down the road with some ideas. And then these few of these roadrunner guys, these ring men, and a bunch of them are standing right around here. Say, yeah. We met at Johnny's at a bar in Lawrence, Kansas. And 4 hours later, we had more ideas about how to go about this project than anyone can imagine. But from that, one of those ideas was to have a sale, if you will, just for the funds to come to this project that Justin Stout headed up. Of course, he's wanting to further his auctioneer career, you know, and so forth. Right, Justin? That, we thought at the best, that might produce $20,000, $30,000. There was semen donated, there was embryos donated, there was females donated. That sale generated $82,000. Wow, now we're rolling. And following that, well, we come across some other donors, and lots of people was helping. It was now starting to be recognized. In fact, we was going to have some kind of a facility at Kansas State to have a sale in. And then people started coming on board. And the number then got raised to about $525,000 or $535,000 that we had committed and pledged as our cash. And then there was this fella, I won't give out any names, but he headquarters at Redding, Kansas. And him and Emily happened to be talking about it, and our good dean down here already mentioned what happened. He said, if you figure out more uses for that than just having a pole barn with a sail in it, I'll help support it, not knowing how much that support might be. And our great department head said, that's great stuff. So here we are. That's how it come about. And there's been some meetings that I have no idea how to even keep track of. We met with architects. We met with engineers. Rich got involved very much in a lot of this design stuff that was beyond what we were thinking about. So my message is, and the LMIC was part of that delivery system. Our board very much was engaged and bought off into this, that let's move forward with it, help do that. And here we are today, and would not Stout be proud of what's here? And with that, I'll say thank you very, very much to lots of folks that helped make it happen. Sonny Booth.
Pat mentioned a couple of things that I want to comment on. One is that, of course, is the kind of expansion of the project. The project expanded for a couple of reasons. One is our desire to have a first-class quality facility. Rich obviously told us perhaps 100 times that he's never built anything and then later decided that it was too big. Okay, so I think we heard that from you a time or two, didn't we, Rich? Yes. So ultimately, this is about a $2 million project. So that's about what the magnitude of the project is. And I would tell you that we're still raising some funds for this. We need about another $300,000, which will wrap up everything. And so we know that a lot of people feel really good about this facility, so we don't anticipate that we'll have too much difficulty in raising that. Pat also alluded to a number of meetings we had, and early on, our architect and general contractor for this entire equine education center up here, the architect is Sheldon Architecture, and our general contractor has been the law, and both of these are Wichita companies. And they did phase 1 of our equine education center up here, and they've also done this, and they're also helping us with the plan for the next building. The next building we have planned up here is the Equine Academic Center. It'll be about a $4 million project, and we are in fact fundraising for that project at this point in time. But we have with us today, we have the representatives from Sheldon Architecture, Stan Sheldon, and Stan, is Chad here as well, or is he not here? Yes, we have Stan and Chad here. I'd like you gentlemen to stand up and be recognized. These are the architects for this facility. And we have our general contractors here, and I'd ask those gentlemen to stand up. Sean Edwards, Rich Kirshen, Roger Mullenix. I don't think Bill is here, is he? And we very much appreciate the work of these folks. I have to tell you, these are professionals. And we sat around that table, and they know that building buildings for state government is different than building buildings for the private sector. And they're very good at this, and we very much appreciate the work that they've actually done. At this time, what I'd like to do is ask Rich Porter to come up. And while Rich is making his way up here, I'd also like to ask Dee Likes from Kansas Livestock Association to come up. In addition to Rich Porter, if you want to make your way up here, Rich, Kansas Livestock Association has been a major supporter of this project, and we very much appreciate what they've done. And Dee has got a brief presentation that he's going to make to Rich, and then following that, Rich, we're going to have some comments from you, so thank you.
Well, I am really pleased to be helping here to recognize Rich Porter. Those of you that know Rich know that he's not a normal, ordinary guy. He's really intelligent, everybody knows that, but he's very unusual in the fact that he has a rare combination of genuine generosity, and he is broadly industry-minded and compassionate. You know, his father, Walter, was a great friend to this industry, a great friend to KLA, and a mentor to me. And one of the things I always admired about his father was his frugality. And let me tell you, Rich is a big chip off the old block. And so, luckily for the Stout building effort, he decided that someone needed to be a catalyst to kind of step forward, as Pat said, provide some new energy to the project. And you know, without fanfare, he simply wrote a check. And then he called me after he had written that check and told me what he would done and what he thought he might yet do. After I got up and got back in my chair, I remember distinctly saying, "But Rich, you're a known tightwad." And his response was, "But if the word gets around that a tightwad thinks this is a good project, it'll attract some more contributions." So he won't let me mention any numbers. He won't even let me mention how many commas are in the numbers. But it took a known tightwad to make it happen. And so that is a travel coffee mug that says tightwad. And the reason that's his gift is because Rich is such a tightwad that he has never yet owned a pickup new enough to have a cup holder.
Or car.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Bruce.
Being a tightwad, you hate to spend money frivolously. And when I saw what was going to happen with this building, the great need for it, I thought there really wouldn't be a higher or better use for funds than for this. And this building was Stanley Stout's dream, and probably when I became involved with it, at least once a week somebody comes to me that knew Stanley really well. Every person absolutely thought the world of Stanley. Can't think of a more fitting person to have this named after and to memorialize. Several people discussed, I won't go into detail, about how the project started on raising funds and then stalled. And there's a lesson to how it went ahead and re-energized. Ken Odie, he energized the three main groups involved with this. Livestock and Meat Industry Council, this is LMIC's project, and with Pat Coons, that was one of the three. The KSU Foundation, the fundraising arm, Emily Fink was the second. And then from his own unit, Animal Science and Industry, Dave Nichols. Those three people took it upon themselves, and they took the money from $200,000 to $500,000 in a fairly short period of time. That signified that there was a strong demand, industry, the state of Kansas, for this building, and so then I went ahead and jumped in on it. But the point is, three separate units, they all work together. In the design of this, the Sheldon Architecture, the law company, K-State, three different enterprises, but they all work together for something that was a greater good. Now, I've never had even a purebred dog on my place. Why would we be funding a purebred sale barn? Well, this is all the cattle industry. I'm stocker and finisher, but the stocker, it's the cattle industry, the state of Kansas, Kansas State University. The point I want to make is that when people start looking at what is the greater good, great things happen. It's when people get focused strictly upon how is this only going to help my little small segment of life, that's when things stall out. And so it's a real joy to see this process from the inside, and a huge number of fantastic people that really had their heart and soul in this project. And I'm only going to name, two, but the law company, the contractors, and Sheldon Architecture. And sure, this was their job, but boy, their heart and soul was totally in this project. Many other examples, I won't take time to go through, of people that threw their heart and soul into it. So this is a real joy. One final comment that was probably the tipping point for me to want to make a major donation. When I've been up at Cattleman's Day, other things at K-State, seeing the students, very bright, engaged students, and you're thinking, wow, what more can we do for them to have a better learning experience and K-State experience. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rich. I also want to mention that when you came in the front entrance out there, there's a painting of Stanley that was done by Gary Coons, the son of Lyle Coons, nephew of Pat Coons, is a student at Kansas State University. And it's just a beautiful painting. We're really, really proud of that, and that was funded by Jack and Donna Veneer. So we thank them as well for doing that. Also, I wanted to mention that the portrait of Stanley that we have over here to the right is on loan from the American Royal. And that's a portrait belongs to the American Royal that's on loan from those folks. I do want to before I bring Dr. Nichols up as our last speaker, I told him he was going to back cleanup today. I want to make a couple other introductions. We have our Vice President for Research here today, Dr. Ron Truen. Ron, if you'd raise your hand. And standing next to him is Kent Glasscock. Many of you know Kent. Kent is I'll try to get this right, but is the Kansas State University Director of the Commercialization Institute. Is that pretty close? That's pretty close. Kent, thank you for being here today as well. A few other people that I want to make special acknowledgement of, and they've been mentioned before, but when we are able to get important things done in any organization, but here at Kansas State University, it really happens when you get a lot of people pulling in the same direction. And when we do these projects that are, the entire project is done with private money, our partners at the KSU Foundation and the Livestock and Meat Industry Council are very, very important to that. And Pat Coons mentioned that Emily Fink is our lead fundraiser on this project, but I also want to mention that our partnership with the foundation and fundraising is Emily. It's also Kim Shire. I saw Kim Shire here today. And also Brian Harris, who's our Director of Development for the Livestock and Meat Industry Council. But we very much value our partnership with the KSU Foundation and the Livestock Meat Industry Council. Thank you. One other introduction that I'd like to make. When we started this project, we had an interim dean. Dr. Gary Przynski was our interim dean. Gary had been the head of the Department of Agronomy and took on the interim deanship for 2 years and has gone back to the Department of Agronomy. But Gary's here today, and I'd like to recognize Gary and thank him for his support. And lastly, Dave Nichols is going to come up here and make a few comments, and I want to say a special thank you to Dave. Dave is our teaching coordinator, has really had a passion for this project from the very beginning. He was a close friend of Stanley Stout's, and I think really saw the value that this facility could bring to our teaching program. And so we're going to have Dave make a few comments and talk specifically about the benefits this will provide for students and maybe share a thought or two about Stanley Stout. So, Dave?
Thank you, Dr. Odie. I truly appreciate the opportunity to speak at this dedication. There are two things I know about Stanley Stout. He hated long pre-sale speeches, and all sales start on time. With that, my remarks are going to be rather brief. Ken asked me to talk about this building and the value to our students. As you may have heard, we now exceed 1,100 students in animal science, food science, and pre-vet ag. We have a tremendous need for additional classroom space. This wonderful facility, with its close proximity to campus, proximity to our livestock units, the internet capabilities, all it can do, will be a tremendous asset, as well as the ability to do live animal demonstration or teaching. The ability to stream information, podcasts, webinars, programs in and out of this facility via the internet will be an opportunity for educational events that will benefit the entire livestock industry. I truly believe this building will continue to solidify our position as the leader in animal science education. As Ken mentioned, we still have work to do and some more fundraising to complete the building. If you can help us, please see Emily Fink. I want to personally thank all of you, from the smallest donations to the large ones. After nearly 7 years, we celebrate the dedication of the Stanley Stout Center. I also especially want to thank Sarah and Rich Porter, and particularly Sean Edwards, our project superintendent. You were great to work with. Anyone who knew Stanley likely has a Stanley Stout story. Most of those can't be told today in the ceremony. Wednesday evening, as I was up mopping floors over here by his picture, I couldn't help, he might look down and boy, am I enjoying seeing that man mop the floors. Secondly, I thought, I'm sure he'd point out all the spots I missed. Stanley taught us many things. He was a great marketer, teacher, friend, and a phenomenal prankster. He was proud to be a K-Stater and always took time to help our students. No matter how busy he was, how many miles he had to drive, he always came and talked to our sales class and then came back and did our sale. In a little bit, we're going to have a great set of students put on a great sale. And these students volunteer for a variety of jobs. A few very brave souls volunteered to be ringmen. Some of you got your start there. Stanley would meet with them and explain all the things they needed to do, taught them about the art of taking bids, and heaven forbid anybody show up with a straw hat prior to May 1. On the portrait in the foyer is written the slogan, "The only sale that matters is yours." He truly lived by it and made you believe it. And I would like to add that also when you talked to Stanley, he made you feel the only person that mattered was you. When K-Staters sing Alma Mater, I know a place that I love so well. I think we need to reflect on the many good things we have at KSU. Great supporters, a great livestock industry, a dedication to students, and great young people that come to this institution. This wonderful facility is a testament to what we can do when we work together. I'm going to wrap up and close by looking at show you some short clips from some old VHS tapes. Some of y'all don't even know what that is. From old sales. I hope you'll enjoy these fond memories of Colonel Stout. It's a great day to be a Wildcat. Thank you very much.
Give me $7,000 where? Give me 7,000. Give me $7,000 on it. Now give me 7. Jan? Did you tell the gentleman to your left that we're at an auction sale and that is, you know, my feeling, and on Monday, your feelings were very strong that you don't talk behind a kettle. I bid $67.50. Give me $7,000. $7,000. The Miles McKee Scholarship Fund. Would you give $6,800? Would you do that? 68. The Miles McKee Scholarship Fund, $6,800. $6,800 on it. 68. 6,800. Try it again. 6,800. All done. 6,800. Would you? 6,800. We appreciate your help. Thank you very much. So 6,750. Bye. 16. Now $1,600 now. 16. Where you at? 1,600. Now Bryce. I just got a note over here. You know this Lynn Foose here? The number girl?
Never heard of her.
She told me to please announce that you and she were going to be married this summer. Is that correct?
That's what they tell me.
Yeah, give him a hand. That's all right. Now, Bryce, the other thing I wanted to announce is your bidder is out. Done. 19, 18, got you at 17.
He's out.
What?
Got out on him.
Did you turn it in?
I did. He shook his head. Now he says no. What do I do with that?
What did you, Chris? Did you mean what are you gonna do with your bow? Chris. I had 16 over here on.
Thank you, and thank you so much, Dave Nichols, for putting that together and for your wonderful comments. The last thing I'd like to do, I want to say one more time to all of you who donated to this project, who contributed to this project in any way, from the bottoms of our hearts, thank you very much. We're very, very appreciative. We think this will be a great move forward for our department, for the college, and for Kansas State University. At this time, we're going to have a brief ribbon-cutting ceremony out on the west side of the building, and most of you who've seen these probably know that this is primarily a photo opportunity, and this is primarily for the pictures. That will not take but a few minutes, and then following that, we're going to have some refreshments near the back of this room, but very, very importantly, we're not going to delay the start of the sale. The sale is going to start at 4 o'clock. And so we're probably about, according to my watch, we're about 17 minutes away from sale time. So at this time, we'll proceed out to the ribbon cutting, and we look forward to seeing you here for the sale. Thank you very much.
From the bottom up. On the 3. Ready? Take your pictures.
Hang tight, sir.
Whoa, wait. Back a little bit. Your hand is holding it. There you go, right there.
All right. Is that good?
Go ahead.
All right. 1.
What? Got a finger off.
2.
This is as good as we can look.
3. Here we go.